So, about last episode, we had a bit of a moment, didn't we? Like one of those episodes where you start talking about something thinking it's going to be a fun nostalgia trip. And then somewhere in the middle of it, you suddenly realize, oh no, this is actually about my life. And I feel like that's kind of what happened because we started out talking about imagination, our childhoods, boredom, all that stuff that feels warm and nostalgic and kind of safe to talk about. And then, by the end of it, I think a lot of us had the exact same reaction. Damn, I really don't let my brain breathe anymore. I mean, I know I did. Like after I finished recording that episode, I had one of those weird quiet moments where I just sat there and kind of replayed the entire conversation back in my head. And the more I sat with it, the more I realized this isn't just some abstract society conversation. This isn't just some kids these days kind of thing. This isn't some old man on the porch shaking his fist at the clouds kind of rant. This is a me thing, a you thing, a we thing. Because I started noticing it almost immediately after that. Like, once your brain sees it, you can't unsee it. I'd be standing in the kitchen waiting on something to heat up, and there it was, hand reaching for the phone. Or sitting in my car for like 45 seconds before going into my day job. There it was, hand reaching for the phone. Or sitting down on the couch with no immediate task for just like 12 seconds. Boom! My brain's already like, all right, dude, what are we watching? What are we checking? What are we doing? Fill the silence, fill the space, fill the gap. And it really got to me, guys, and not in some dramatic end of the world kind of way, just in that weird, uncomfortable, very honest kind of way where you realize, oh man, I don't even give myself the chance anymore. I don't give my mind the chance to wander. I don't give boredom a chance to show up. I don't give creativity a chance to just happen on its own. Because every single time there's an opening, I stuff something into it. And I know I'm not alone in that. Because after that episode, hearing from some of the people, seeing reactions, or seeing folks in the lobby DM me, it felt like a lot of us were having that same uncomfortable little light bulb moment. Like, yeah, Nate is talking about me too. And look, I'm not here to guilt trip anyone. I'm not even here to pretend I've got this all figured out. I'm not about to come on here and tell you I've ascended to some higher state of consciousness where I sit peacefully in silence, journal by candlelight, and spend my mornings staring thoughtfully out a window while birds land on my shoulder like some weird Disney princess with a beard. No, that is not what's happening over here. I still love my phone. I still love the internet. I still love memes, YouTube rabbit holes, random reels, dumb videos, and all the rest of the nonsense that comes with being alive right now in this moment. I am not trying to become some anti technology cave druid. That is not the mission. But I do think there's a middle ground. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because the question after last episode isn't just whatever happened to imagination. The next question is, okay, so how do we get some of it back? And not all at once. Not by throwing our phones collectively into a river. Not by pretending the modern world doesn't exist. And not by turning into one of those dudes who says, I haven't owned a television in 17 years. Cool, man. Very happy for you. No, I mean in real life, in normal life, with jobs and responsibilities and bills and kids and stress and notifications and group chats and all the rest of it. How do you actually carve out just a little bit of room to allow your brain to breathe again, to let yourself be creative again, to stop treating every single quiet second like it's some kind of emergency that needs to be medicated with content? Because I really do think that's all a part of it. We've gotten so used to filling every single moment that now an empty one feels wrong. The silence feels wrong. The stillness feels wrong. Waiting feels wrong. And maybe that's why imagination feels harder nowadays. Not because it left, and not because we're broken, and not because the world is doomed and our brains are mush and everything's terrible forever, but because imagination just needs a little room. It needs some air. It needs a crack in the wall, just a little opening. And we keep sealing every opening shut. So today, I want to talk about that. And not in some preachy self-help guru way. Not in some wake up sheeple kind of way. Good Lord, no, absolutely not. I just want to talk about some simple stuff. Real stuff. Stuff that maybe helps us reconnect just a little bit with the part of ourselves that used to be able to make whole worlds out of nothing. Because I don't think that part of us is dead. I really, really don't. I think it's still in there. I think it's probably exhausted, sure, but I think it's probably buried under notifications and endless stimulation and a bunch of other modern brain rot nonsense. But I think it's still there. So this Checkpoint Thursday, this one's not about mourning what we lost. It's about seeing if we can find our way back to some of it. Not perfectly, and not permanently. Not in some fake, I fixed my life in 7 easy steps kind of way. Just honestly, a little at a time, in ways that actually make sense for real people living real lives. So, let's talk about how to get your imagination back without quitting the internet. Because, brother, we all know I still need me some Wi-Fi. Hey, and welcome to, or welcome back to, the Average Joe Nerdcast. I'm Nate, your resident Average Joe, lifelong nerd, nostalgia addict, and a guy currently trying to rewire his brain to not immediately reach for his phone every single time there's 5 seconds of silence. Haha, it's not going great. We're in early access. Bugs are still being worked out. Sometimes I'll catch myself doing it mid-action, too, like I'll already be watching something and then I'll grab my phone to watch something else, while the first thing is still actively playing. What are we doing, everybody? Now, if you're new to the show, this is Checkpoint Thursday, and this is the part of the week where we kinda pull up to the side for just a minute. Take a breather, check in, expand on something that's been sitting with us. Because if Mainline Monday is the big deep dives, then Checkpoint Thursday is where we go, okay, but let's actually talk about this for real. And this week, yeah, we're definitely doing that. Because last episode, we talked all about imagination, and not just in a fun, nostalgic way. It turned into one of those conversations where you kind of stop halfway through and go, oh, this is about me. And judging by everything I saw after, messages, comments, conversations, a lot of y'all had that same moment. Like, yeah, I don't let my brain breathe anymore either. So today, this is the follow-up. This is the, okay, now what? Because I'm not trying to just leave us all sitting there like, well, guess we're all cooked. Nah, we're gonna actually talk about how to get some of that back. Not perfectly and not all at once, but in real ways that actually fit into real life. So if you're new around here, welcome to the show. And if you've been here since the beginning, well, then you already know. We're about to get into it. So a lot of the times, I think this is where people immediately go sideways with this entire conversation. The very second you start talking about imagination or boredom or how things used to feel, there's this almost immediate instinct to go, we need to go back. Like we all just collectively need to abandon modern life, throw our phones into the nearest body of water and go live in the woods, and start communicating via carrier pigeons again. And look, I totally get it. Because when you think about how things used to feel, it's easy to romanticize that version of life. No constant notifications, no endless scrolling, no feeling like your attention is being pulled in 12 different directions all at once. Just space. So, yes, of course, your brain immediately goes, well, that must be the solution. Get rid of all of this. But here's the problem with that. That's not real. That's not how life works anymore. And honestly, I don't think it should. Because let's be real for a second. There's a lot about modern life that's actually really awesome. Like, I'm not about to sit here and pretend I don't enjoy having access to basically all human knowledge in my pocket, or being able to look up anything, watch anything, connect with people instantly. That stuff is absolutely incredible. And even from a nerd standpoint, gaming right now, content right now, storytelling right now, guys, we are eating good. Like, imagine telling your younger self, hey, dude, one day you're going to have an entire library of games at your fingertips. And instead of renting one game for just the weekend and praying you beat it before Sunday, you've got hundreds of options. Online multiplayer, constant updates. Your younger self would be like, yo, that sounds like heaven. So, this isn't about pretending modern life is all that bad, because it's not. The problem isn't that we have all this stuff. The problem is we never put it down. That right there, that's the difference. Because back then, even though we didn't have as much, we had built in gaps, built in space. You ran out of things to do. You ran out of shows to watch. You ran out of games to play. And when that happened, your brain had to figure something out. That's where your imagination showed up. Now, there is no running out. There is always something, always another video, always another post, always another game, always another distraction. So we never hit that point anymore. We never hit the edge. And that edge, that's where the good stuff used to start. Just think about it for a second. How many times growing up did something fun start with, man, I'm bored? That sentence right there was like the beginning of everything. That's when you picked up the phone, called your friends. That's when you went outside. That's when you made up some absolutely ridiculous game with rules that made absolutely zero sense, but somehow all worked. All right, so you can't cross this line because it's lava. And that tree over there is base. And if I hit you with this stick, then you're out. We were out there running full simulations with zero budget. And none of that required us to go backwards. It just required space. And that's the shift I want people to make. Because this isn't about rejecting modern life. No, it's about being just a little more intentional while inside it. It's about understanding that, yes, all this stuff is absolutely great, but if you never step away from it, you never give anything else a chance to show up. And that includes your imagination. So no, we're not going back. We're not throwing everything away. We're not becoming off-grid monks living in the mountains. We're just making just a little room. And once you understand that, then the next part gets a hell of a lot easier. Because now it's not about changing your whole life. It's just about changing something much smaller. So now that we've cleared that up, that we're not throwing our phones into a lake, and we're not moving into the woods. No. We're not becoming monks. Now we can actually talk about something real. And this is going to sound almost stupid simple, like kind of borderline insulting. But I'm telling you, this is probably the most important part of this whole thing. Allow yourself to be bored. I know. Groundbreaking stuff from your old pal Nate. Somebody get me a TED Talk. But I don't mean bored like, go sit in a room for 3 hours staring at a wall. I mean tiny moments, micro boredom. Because here's the thing, we've engineered boredom out of our lives, almost completely. There is no more waiting. There is no more nothing to do. There is no more dead space, and that sounds like a good thing on paper, but I really don't think it is. Because that dead space, it wasn't actually dead. That's where your brain used to wake up. Think about how we move through the day now. You're standing in line somewhere, phone. Sitting at a red light, phone. Walking from one room to another, phone. Waiting for your food, phone. Sitting on the couch for literally 10 seconds with no immediate stimulation, phone. And like I said, I've caught myself doing this exact thing. I'll unlock my phone, check one app, immediately close it, open another one, close that, go back to the first one. And not because there's anything new there, but because my brain just does not want to sit still. And that's kind of the problem. We've trained ourselves to eliminate every gap. But those gaps, those are where imagination used to live. And that's where random thoughts would pop up. That's where ideas would start forming. That's where you'd start connecting things or remembering something or just letting your brain go somewhere on its own. Now, we never give it the chance. Because the second there's an opening, we immediately fill it. And I started noticing this after the last episode in a way I hadn't before. Like I'd be standing in the kitchen waiting on something and I'd feel it, that impulse, that itch. Grab your phone. And for a second, I'd just stop and just not do it. And it felt weird. Like uncomfortably weird. Like my brain didn't know what to do with that space. And then just after a few seconds, something would happen. And not anything crazy, just a thought. Something random, something creative, something I hadn't been thinking about before. And it hit me like, oh, this is what I've been missing. Not because it's gone, but because I never give it a chance to just show up. And that's why this matters. Because I'm not asking you to overhaul your life. I'm not asking you to delete apps or set screen time limits or do anything extreme. I'm just simply asking you to try something really, really small. The next time you have a moment where you would normally grab your phone, don't. Just for a second. Just sit there. Let it feel weird. Let your brain fidget just a little. And then just see what happens. Because you don't need hours. You don't need a whole afternoon. You don't need to go off grid. You just need moments. And once you start creating those little moments, that's when the next piece starts to matter. Because now your brain has a little space. The question becomes, what do you do with it? So now you've got a little space, right? You're creating these small moments. You're not instantly filling every gap. Your brain's starting to wake up a little bit again. And that's where the next part comes in. Because now the question becomes, what do you actually do with that space? And I think this is where we've accidentally made things way harder than they need to be. Because somewhere along the way, we turned creativity into performance. Everything now has to be good. Everything has to be worth sharing. Everything has to be polished or productive or lead to something. And if it doesn't, we feel like we're wasting our time. Which is crazy. Because that's literally the opposite of how this used to work. When we were kids, none of this mattered. We didn't care if something was good. You didn't care if it was impressive. You weren't thinking, how will this perform? Imagine being 8 years old and building a Lego spaceship and then stopping halfway through like, I don't know if this aligns with my personal brand. Like, what? No! You just built the thing. You made up stories. You drew weird stuff. You created entire worlds. And none of it had to matter. That was the whole point. Nowadays, everything feels like it has to count. Even our hobbies feel like side hustles. Even fun feels like it needs a purpose. And I think that kills creativity faster than anything else. Because imagination does not thrive under pressure. It just doesn't. It needs that freedom. It needs low stakes. It needs space to be bad. Like, think about how hard it is now to just do something for absolutely no reason. You start drawing something, and immediately your brain goes, should I post this? Could I turn this into something? Is this worthy of my time? Bro, can we just draw the dumb thing? You try to play a video game just for fun, and suddenly you're optimizing, looking up builds, watching guides, turning it into work. Like we took play and turned it into a job. And that's what we've got to undo. Because this is where imagination comes back online, when you give yourself permission to do things that don't matter at all. Doodle something, write something stupid, build something pointless, make up a story that goes nowhere, or play a game and don't look anything up. Just be bad at it. Go back to that figure it out energy. The I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're gonna make it work era. That's where the fun was. That's where imagination lived. And I think we forgot that. Not everything has to lead somewhere. Not everything has to be efficient. Not every single thing has to be shared. Some things can just exist. Just for you. So if you're trying to get that feeling back, start right there. Do something small. Do something pointless. Do something that doesn't need to be good. And just let yourself enjoy it without turning it into anything else. Because once you do that, something interesting starts to happen. That pressure starts to fall off, and things start to feel fun again. And that leads into the next piece of all of this, which might sound even dumber than the last one. So we've got space now. We're not filling every second. We're allowing our brains to breathe just a little. We're doing things without turning them into content or work. So now we get to the part that, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's gonna feel a little weird. And maybe even kinda dumb. But just stay with me. Play again. Not like competitive. Not, I need to be good at this. Not, I need to optimize this. I mean, actually play. And yeah, if you're an adult, you're probably already feeling that resistance. Like your brain is immediately going, hey, we don't do that anymore. We have responsibilities. I pay bills now. Yeah, I know. I'm not saying quit your job and go build a treehouse. I mean, unless you really want to. I'm saying do something that reminds you what it felt like to play without a purpose. And that's harder than it sounds, because we've tied everything now to outcomes, even games. Just think about it. How often do you sit down to play something nowadays and it immediately turns into, hey, what's the meta? What's the best build? How do I progress the fastest? You're not even playing. You're executing. We used to just, I don't know, wander, get lost, mess around, do stuff that had absolutely nothing to do with progress. Half the fun was just figuring things out on our own. Now we skip straight to the answer. So when I say play again, I mean go back to that mindset. Not permanently, not for everything, just sometimes. Go outside and throw a ball around. Build something dumb. Rearrange your living room like you're setting up a fort. And yeah, if your wife walks in and you've got couch cushions stacked up like you're preparing for a medieval siege, just commit to it. Hey, listen, I have a vision. Or boot up an old game and don't look anything up. Just wander. Do side stuff. Ignore the objective. Get lost on purpose. That's where the magic used to be. And I think part of why this feels so weird now is because we've convinced ourselves that if something isn't productive, then it's not worth doing. And that's just not true. Because some of the most important parts of who you are came from doing stuff that didn't matter at all. The way you think, the way you create, the way you problem solve. All of that got shaped in those moments. Playing, exploring, imagining, just messing around. So yeah, it might feel a little dumb. It might feel awkward. You might feel like, why am I even doing this? But do it anyway. Because that feeling, that's just the barrier. That's the part of you that forgot how. And once you get past that, that's when something else starts to come back online. Something a little quieter, but way more important. And honestly, this is where my brain goes back to Ripley again. And don't worry, not in the same way as last episode, but in a way that kind of ties all of this together. Because for those of you who might be new around here, Ripley was our dog. She passed away about a year ago. And if there was ever a creature that just understood how to be in a moment, it was her. And I've been thinking about that a lot, especially after everything we talked about last episode and everything we've been unpacking here. Because she didn't need less world. She didn't need things to be simpler. She didn't need to go backwards. She just was fully in whatever was happening. Completely. If she was outside, that was the whole world. If she had a stick, that was the stick. Not one of many options, not something to compare, that was it. And I think about that now, and it hits just a little different. Because we've got more than ever, more options, more content, more things pulling at us. And somehow, we're less in it. Meanwhile, she didn't need any of that. She just needed the moment she was in. And I think that's really what all of this is about. Not getting rid of everything, not going backwards, just being present enough to let something simple feel really, really big again. And yeah, maybe that's imagination. Or maybe it's just learning how to be in the moment again. And I think that's the takeaway from all of this. You don't need to change your entire life. You don't need to delete everything. You don't need to become a completely different person. Because that part of you, the one that imagines, the one that creates, the one that used to make something out of nothing, it's still in there. It didn't go anywhere. It just doesn't get called on anymore. Because we don't give it the space. And maybe that's all this really is. Not some big fix, not some massive life change, just making a little room again. A few moments here and there where you don't fill the silence. Where you don't reach for something, where you just, I don't know, let your brain do its thing. Because that's where it starts. And not all at once, just a little at a time. All right, everybody. That's this week's Checkpoint Thursday. But I want to hear from you on this one. Have you noticed this in your own life? Like how often you reach for your phone? How hard it is to sit in silence? Or how weird it feels to just exist for a second? Let me know over in the lobby. I'll drop the link to the private Facebook group, or you can head straight over to Facebook right now and in the search bar type Average Joe Nerdcast, the lobby, and you will find the page. And here's your challenge this week. Just once a day. Just once. Don't reach for your phone. That's it. Just one moment. Let it be quiet. Let it feel weird. And just see what shows up. As always, shout out to my player 2. And shout out to my brother Ian. And especially all of you holding it down in the lobby. Whether you've been here since day 1 or this is your first checkpoint. You're all a part of this now. And if you feel so inclined, then please drop a 5-star rating and review and share it with one of your friends who still remembers what it was like to just imagine. Until next time, stay gold, nerd. bold. And I'll catch you on the next one.
Game over.